I am a cash coach. I have had my own business for the last 8 years now.
And you take it as a different approach of like, this is what I learned. This is how I can implement it in other businesses moving forward.
This client owed her dad $1 million.
When did it become like the pivoting point of why you want to do 500,000 in sales minimum?
I like a lot of entrepreneurs, just figure to put the cart before the horse and figure it out later on.
Now, why real estate?
The statistics are over 80% of realtors leave within the first 2 years.
Is there even any like interns for bookkeeping?
I ended up letting him go. It was thousands of dollars that went out of my account every month.
And that's really taking the 90% fail rate and trying to reduce that as much as possible.
Whatever the goals are for them, even if it's just being able to go to their kids' soccer games or something.
Go see Jen.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called the Profitable Agent. My goal was $2,000 a month, and now we actually hit $250,000 a year. So maybe if we don't include that question.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new podcast. My name is JJ Vola. Alongside here is my cousin Cal Vola, and today we are joined by a special guest, none other than my sister, Jennifer Hume. Jen, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast. Give everybody a little brief description of who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me first off. So my name is Jennifer. I am a cash coach, and I have had my own business for the last 8 years now.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. I look forward to going through because, I mean, you and I, even though we're a brother and sister, we're certainly not the closest, I would say.
No.
So from a career point of view, I definitely want to dive into what it is that you've gone through. So walk us back through from your early age, maybe some of your first jobs out of high school to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am 13 years older than you, which is so sad to admit. But yeah, there definitely has been a lot. So I actually started bookkeeping back in my early 20s for our father, for our company. Before that, I was a serial job hopper. So I worked in the malls. I worked in many different retail stores over the years. Always loved a challenge, but never found anything challenging enough. And so I really loved when we started working with Volacorp and Volacorp back in the day. I really enjoyed the challenge of learning bookkeeping. It was something that was new. It was something that I had never done before. It was very... It was challenging. It was a really great experience working in a family business. As you guys both know, I think we're a family of serial entrepreneurs, and I love it. My day-to-day tasks were varied. Some days I got to drive all the way up to Wyerton to deliver over 200 handwritten checks. Some days I was just busy doing data entry, but I got to answer phones. Where I really, really enjoyed was actually hearing Dad on sales calls. Our father is the most amazing salesman you've ever heard. And so for me, I remember a lot of those days, and working with your mom was a real pleasure. She's a graphic design artist, and it was a real pleasure getting to know her on a deeper level and connecting with her in a business way. But because before that, she had only ever been my stepmom. And so it was really cool getting to see her in that professional capacity. And I think a lot of what I learned back then, really, I've brought forward into where I am today. I think that's really what fueled me to want to open a bookkeeping business was, unfortunately, our father's business did go under. And I always kind of wondered why. And so for me, I searched for a long time for answers for how I could help people to make sure that they weren't in the same boat. And so I'm happy that nowadays I really get to make that difference. But again, going back to those days, I miss seeing all the people from back then. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of growth. So it was really cool.
That's great. Now, because I remember did you go to a school, university, or college for any, like just some like course that you did? Did you not go to school early off?
I did. I actually took architectural design after high school. So okay. I actually moved to Windsor for a year. I did architectural technology there. I also moved to Hamilton and did it through Mohawk College for half a year as well. But ultimately, I ended up leaving school. It wasn't for me. It wasn't where I wanted to be. It wasn't what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that I'm not... I don't do well in traditional learning environments. And so for me, it was not where I wanted to be. And so for me, I left and I moved to London for a few years and again, just worked in retail environments. And after a few years of that, that's where I got sick and tired of that and called Dad. But I actually am taking an advanced bookkeeping course now. So I've been a bookkeeper for over 15 years. I actually got taught by our accountant back in the day, if you can believe it. They actually sent somebody from their office and just sat down with me for a few days a week over the course of a month and kind of taught me. And so I've built my skills over the years, but I really want to make sure that I'm making as much impact for my clients as I can. And so for me, it was really important to make sure that I understood depreciation and amortization and all those crazy things that nobody cares about other than an accountant. But for me, it was very important. And so, I'm taking a very expensive course right now.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Cool.
And I guess going back to like, Volacorp and Volarock and all that kind of stuff, and you doing bookkeeping and finances now. I mean, so those businesses didn't succeed. And the main reason for businesses not succeeding is financials, like at the end of the day. So you saw like a problem that happened. And now you're trying to obviously get into that space, or you are in that space and you've been doing it for a long time and whatnot. So what can you say to like business owners and their finances and all that kind of stuff? Because it does get kind of left like to the side until it becomes like tax time or like, when you need money or whatever it may be. So I guess what can you say to people that may be struggling right now with their finances, especially in this economic environment?
That's a great question, Cal. I think that the one piece of advice I would give is to first off read a book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Mike has written many books, but Profit First has been a real game changer for me and a lot of my clients. I use the methodology in my business every day, but I think that if all you're going to do is one small change in your life, is open a separate savings account and take 1% of whatever is in your bank account today, and regularly, say twice a month if you can, take 1% of whatever's in your checking account and put that in a savings account just to help you with those other things in life. I have found being intentional with your money has really made a difference.
Okay, got it. And that's great advice. I mean, like, and it's one of those things like it's discipline, which is so hard to do. And I think what I've heard too is automating your savings. So every month having money go kind of directly into an account and whatnot really helps. But it's one of those things that entrepreneurs, face, and they're like, hey, we need money right now. And when that money is in a savings account, they're like, hey, I need to place this order. I need to pull that out, put it into that, whatever investment you're making. And then that money never seems to return for whatever reason,
Absolutely. So that's where getting intentional with your bank accounts. I actually go as far as having my clients name their bank accounts. So we actually split everything up by percentage of income. So we look at what they're paying themselves, how much if they're saving any money for taxes. Let's be honest, most people don't save a dime for taxes. And so to be able to turn around, I'm going to give you a really good example. So I work with a dance studio out in London. This client owed her dad $1 million in just helping her run this studio. And in the last year and a half of us working together, being intentional with her money, really looking at her pricing structure, looking at where she was justifying spending money but didn't really need to spend money. And she was able to cut him a check for over $200,000 last month. So what a difference intentional habits can really make. And that's what I love about the Profit First methodology, and what we really do in our business is just get intentional.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and not to get away from this conversation is absolutely great. I love it. But I want to just dive into like how and why you wanted to do your own like bookkeeping. Like, when did you start? How did you get in? Like, obviously you came from Volacorp being like, okay, business went under, obviously. And some people would be like, okay, well, it's not for me after. But then you take it as a different approach of like, well, no, this is what I learned. This is how I can implement it in other businesses moving forward, especially because that was in 2008 when, a huge recession happened.
That's right.
And now we're in I wouldn't say we're in that same timeline where houses markets are going stupid. People's income aren't necessarily the greatest. And now even myself and Cal wanting to start our own businesses and all that kind of stuff. And does it even make sense? So walk us through like when you started your business, how it came to be and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually after Volacorp and Volarock closed, I ended up getting another job with another company. And a few years later, ended up getting laid off again. And I was sick and tired of allowing other people to control my life. And so I was on unemployment at the time, and I actually got accepted to a program called the Ontario Self-Employment Benefit Program, or OSEB for short. I was the last person in Ontario to get accepted to this program, and then they cut funding for it. So I actually got paid for like the equivalent of unemployment for 10 months while I went to business meetings and actually learned how to build a business. So I had to do a business plan. I had to do a vision statement and a mission statement. And I actually had to not just go, I'm going to do bookkeeping for everybody, but I actually had to look at what does a business plan look like? And I had to do research and things. And so I thankfully got accepted, learned a lot along the way. And thankfully, that's really what fueled me, was just not allowing other people to control my destiny anymore. And I think that seeing our father be an entrepreneur his whole life, and our uncle be an entrepreneur his whole life, and even our cousins and other brothers and sisters, it's really cool. And so I was like, what have I got to lose? And so I was like, I started off my business going, I need to make $2,000 a month just so I can contribute towards my bills and my mortgage. Because my husband was really the main breadwinner in our family, but I wanted to make sure that I, paid my way. And so that's really how we got our start over 8 years ago now.
Wow. Cool.
And I guess a lot of people, if they saw a business fail and then they got laid off and they're like, man, like what's going on? Like business sucks, and seeing all these, downturns and all that kind of stuff. And then for you to be like, you know what? I'm going to go start my own company, even know that maybe that fear of like, maybe I won't make it, or like, the fear of failure and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And then being like, you know what, let's do it. Let's go through it. And that starter company or that grant company is really, really cool. So how much did they pay you? So it was like EI, you said?
Yeah, it was like the equivalent of unemployment that you got for the first 10 months. And then literally it was cut off and you were just expected to go and have your own business at that point. So it would, back in the day, it would have been 8 years ago, it would have been around $600 a month I would have got.
Okay.
So really not a lot,
Yeah.
but enough that you could live off of,
Sure.
like basically. So, but yeah, that's really what started it all.
Yeah. And how much did it cost to start your business up, roughly?
Yeah, so thankfully for me, bookkeeping is a fairly low cost venture. You really don't need a lot of qualifications. So I use a software called QuickBooks Online. So even to be signed up as their pro advisor under their training program is all free. So maybe a couple $1,000s. It's really, I hate to say it, but you need, because bookkeeping is very software heavy, especially if you're doing it virtually like I do, you need a credit card, and software costs can be in the thousands, depending. But really, like, as long as you have an internet connection and a home computer, that's really all you need to get started.
Now, what would it have taken back in that time to get that $2,000 a month that you were looking for? Like, what did you have to charge? How many clients did you have to get? Like, what did that look like at that time?
Yeah. So I, like a lot of entrepreneurs, just, figure to put the cart before the horse and figure it out later on. And so for me, it was really just connecting with those like family friends that knew. I reached out to anybody and everybody that I knew. I got some business cards done. I actually went down. I love real estate, so I actually physically went into a bunch of the brokerages at the time, let them know I was a new bookkeeper. Thankfully, we had a family friend that took me on as his bookkeeper and really, really helped spread my name. And it just kind of went from there. So, and I've really just built actually my book of business based on word of mouth.
And how many clients would you need to make $2,000 a month, roughly?
So back in the day, I was charging like $25 an hour. I no longer charge hourly rates. People actually need at least $500,000 a year in order to even qualify to work with us now, just because of all the specialties that we do. So yeah, it really can vary.
Awesome. And I mean, a lot of people, when they first start businesses, like they'll go out, maybe even they'll have a website, maybe do Google AdWords, all that kind of stuff. But you went down the route of, I'm going to go knock on doors. I'm going to go into businesses. I'm going to go find that low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
That's going to like help me kind of get these clients and whatnot. So I guess what could you say to like other people that might be starting something similar to you? Like, is that the best way to do it? Like referrals and door knocking and all that kind of stuff in today's day and age, or like the online route?
So it first off, it depends. So some people still, we still have a big farming community here in Canada. And so a lot of farmers still have an older mentality. And so they still like to do their books manually. I personally was never into that. I could tell that online was the way of the future. And so for me, that's the way I went. So that would be the first piece of advice I would give somebody is decide if you're going to be working in somebody's office or if you want to work from home. If you want to just work from home, invest the money in the software, learn the software, choose the software, because Lord knows there's a million different softwares out there. So get concrete on the type of client you want to work with. And even my biggest tip, I think, would be, especially if you're a newer bookkeeper in the game or just new in the accounting field, would be to talk to more established accountants. Most accounting firms don't want to touch bookkeeping with a 10-foot pole. And so to be able to go in there as a skilled and qualified person to say, hey, this is how I work, this is, the kind of clients that I work with, would be really beneficial. And I'm sure that you would be able to get some traction because, again, accountants don't want to do that. And it's hard to find good help these days.
Okay. Okay. How did you find your accountant that you work with currently?
Good question. One of my clients actually was using this gentleman at the time, and his name is Claudio Cicchetti. Shout out to CCBC in Hamilton. No, so he was working for a large firm at the time and went out on his own with a partner and has done really well. And so I really enjoy my accountant. He's very proactive, and I think that that's important. I don't think that in 2023, you should only be seeing your accountant once a year at the end of the year. It should be, each quarter you should actively be talking to your accountant to focus on your goals and really check in and see how far along you are in the process of that. So that's one reason I really recommend him.
Okay. And do you work exclusively with him, or do you work with different accountants?
No, we definitely work. I don't like to poach clients from people. And so I would never say to someone with them coming on that you have to only work with our accountant, because that may not jive with them, right? And maybe the accountant doesn't like them either. So you never know. And so I'm always happy to meet with the potential client's accountant and have an interview with them and just let them know what we do and, love to hear what they do.
Sure. Okay. And then, beyond doing the bookkeeping, so you're running this business, it's going super, super well, you're getting clients, all that kind of stuff. What are kind of the next steps for you, like in that world? How do you grow it? How do you make the most of it?
Even like another question to add to Cal's too, like when did it become like a pivoting point of why you wanted to do 500,000 in sales minimum?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure like before you were taking like, anyone, right?
Oh yeah.
Money is good.
Oh, yeah.
But like when did it become like, you're like, okay, this is a point now where we have a team, we're specialized, like we're hitting 500,000 minimum. Like went like into Cal's question, like when did that come to be?
Yeah, so I definitely was in the game for about 6 years. I had 2 employees at the time, and I thought I had to hire a third. I was getting a lot of questions. I was frustrated. And I read a book called The Successful Bookkeeper, and I read it while on vacation, and it spoke to me. And so I called the Successful Bookkeeper when I got back, and it's a workflow implementation process. So originally I had everything in my head and I had nothing down on paper, and that was causing a lot of confusion and a lot of questions. And so I invested $20,000 in a 1-year coaching program called Accelerate to Advisor. And that is where I had so many aha moments, and I really found my why, which was the advisory and the coaching portion. And so that would have been back in 2019 that I did that program. And I now coach part-time in that program as well as a few others. And so that really, really has led to my why, because I've been able to find a community of other bookkeepers and accountants in North America that have helped me over the years, that I get to help them in return. And that's just fueled this like just amazing love for helping people in their businesses. And I think all too often good people get into bad situations just from some choices that they weren't even really aware of what they were doing. And so my goal now is to just really change that script for entrepreneurs.
Now, would you say it's harder to work with a higher scale company like that, or would you say it's more easier?
It can be harder, but it can be easier. Unfortunately, I think that sometimes if you're newer in the game, you don't really understand why you need a bookkeeper and why you have to pay them so much money. And so it is good, because sometimes if you're in the industry a longer time, you can really understand, especially if you've had a bad bookkeeper or a bad accountant, how important it is to have a good bookkeeper. And so I really love the challenges that go along with building teams, building out workflows and things like that, helping agents. It's been really, really life-changing for me. Like I I'm so grateful and so blessed that I get to wake up every day and do what I do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And it shows too. I mean, we had some guests here that, even though they're happy talking about what they do, you can see the passion is lost, right? And it definitely shows in you. Now, with that, how many clients do you have now? What team is how big is your team now?
So I currently have 2 part-time staff members. I have around 50 clients, but they have many, many corporations under those 50 files. We primarily work with real estate agents and real estate investors. And so often our real estate investors will have different properties under different corporations.
Now, why real estate?
I love it.
Yeah.
You blame dad.
Yeah, for sure.
I can remember being like even before you were on this earth and before our sister was on this earth. I remember going open housing on the weekends with him. And I remember Brad and I like running from room to room and like pressing the speaker boxes. And I just have always, even when we did Volacorp, we're flipping almost 50 homes a year at one point. And so for me, it was very gratifying to do that. I've always been interested in real estate. I would love to one day get into stratification, which is changing apartment buildings over into condos. But you need mad money for that. So one day.
Investors, if you're listening.
Yeah. But I really think it's just come from dad and all the open housing we've done. And I really think it runs in the family too.
My sister's becoming a real estate agent right now. And my grandfather was a real estate agent and he had his own brokerage and all that kind of stuff. So it really does. I mean, we want to invest in real estate like anybody else, because really that's where like the real wealth comes from and the freedom, right? To do the things that you want to do. And entrepreneurship is all about freedom. Like at the end of the day, that's why we're here, to help other businesses succeed and other people succeed, but ultimately to give us the freedom that we want to live our lives. So, and then even going back to, the bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff, and even going back to the good bookkeeper. So, what did you like really learn in that course? I know you said you found your why. So what is your why?
My why is really just to change people being in debt and really just changing the script. I think that especially in the real estate profession, and I'm sure your sister can attest to this, being a second time around realtor as well. It's the statistics are over 80% of realtors leave within the first 2 years. It takes you a heck of a lot of time and a heck of a lot of money to be able to get there. And I think that the issue is once people become agents, they've been maybe employees their whole life and they don't understand that nobody's going to pay them to sit there. And they always think that, oh my gosh, I have to get my business cards and I have to have my website and everything's got to be tickety boo. And you're like, no, like just get out there and go knock on doors. So I think for me, I've met really good people over the years that have made some not great decisions, but you can help train them to make better decisions. And so by showing them how to be intentional with their money, it really can change their life and their perspective. And for me, that's the most gratifying that I do.
Okay. And now with being like specifically into real estate, obviously I'm sure you know a lot of the front end, back end of almost every transaction, how they manage their businesses and stuff like that. And even to our conversation that we were having before, we led into how you got into owning your own business, those type of questions before. Like, what advice can you give to real estate agents specifically about day-to-day tasks if they want to do their own bookkeeping or lower that cost? What advice would you give to them?
I would absolutely say you absolutely should have some set of books to begin with. QuickBooks has like an easy start program. I think it's under $30 a month that you can have. It's called Self-Employed. They give you tips in there. They give you tricks in there. I would highly recommend you do get hooked up with a bookkeeper as fast as you can. I've seen some people in their first year go from making $60,000 to over $250,000. And if you're not careful and you make some poor choices, like getting a Tesla instead of, saving for your next 6 months,
I'd be that guy.
You can get yourself in some hot water. And so I would say, again, get intentional with your money, read Profit First. And if all you do is just take 1% of your money and put it in a separate savings account, that's, I think, the number one tip I would leave anybody with at the end of any meeting.
I guess when like agents get to $500,000, that's when like things get too hectic. Like it's too busy. I need help. I got to call Jen. because ultimately there's a lot of, expenses going out, a lot of money coming in, like a lot of like fat checks, like, and that's a big thing in real estate is you get a really big check, a really big deal just came through, and it's like, oh, this is all going in my account. I can go buy my Tesla,
Yep.
right? But taking that money and being like, hey, there's some money going for taxes, put some money away for a rainy day, budgeting, whatever it may be. So I guess, what can you kind of say to those guys from 0 to 500,000? When is a good point to kind of get in touch with someone like you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you definitely should be getting in touch with someone prior to 500,000, even if you get one commission check in your first year or two commission checks your first year. I would highly recommend it. I think by the time that most agents get to the point where they're at 500,000, they already have a team or they've tried to have a team and things haven't worked and their expenses get out of control. And they're seeing on their bank statements that there's never any money, but they really don't understand where the money is going. And so I would say take control as soon as you can and as fast as you can, and talk with a professional as earlier in your career as you can. I think too that the one thing that I'm noticing coming up in a lot of my calls with agents these days is that it really can take 2 to 3 years for you to go from having a lead generation and to really have them prospect and actually what you can do over those 2 or 3 years to make sure that you're, still having those warm touch points and stuff like that. So it's, I feel like the finance goes in there, but there's so much more than just the finance portion.
And yeah, I mean, for these real estate agents, I guess what are like 3 tips, like that they can kind of take away from this podcast that'll really kind of help them with their business and the finance side of it?
Hire a professional.
Okay.
Start with 1%. And surround yourself with community. So a lot of the brokerages really do have a lot of really good training programs. You also will go a lot further if you can hook up with a more experienced agent. So to be able to learn from their mistakes is very important. You don't want to go and make your own mistakes time and time and time again. If you can learn from somebody and save yourself a couple years in the business and some heartache and some money, I think those are some good points.
And even to your point too, about becoming a bookkeeper and all that kind of stuff, right? Like how to get in. Where would you say would be a great spot for someone that want to be a bookkeeper or accountant or whatever the case is to go to get that professional advice, other than obviously reading books, but to get that visual, hands-on training? Would you say it's like finding someone to go work for free? Become like a apprentice almost, or what do they call them? The intern, right?
So the road to accounting is long. So that's a university. The road to bookkeeping is less. The course that I'm doing right now is actually by Trifold Bookkeeping Group, and they are a phenomenal training company. I would highly recommend anybody that wants to be a bookkeeper look at the course. It's not cheap, but it's one of the best ones that you can find out there, especially for Canadian bookkeepers. What was the second part of your question? See.
No, just is there even any like interns for bookkeeping?
Oh, good question, actually. Yeah, a lot of accountants will hire junior bookkeepers. So someone that maybe has gone to Mohawk College, got their bookkeeping certificate, but doesn't really have any experience and doesn't necessarily want to do this on their own. And so they absolutely can, contact some accounting offices. We also have a professional designation. It's called CPB, stands for Canada Professional Bookkeepers. So I think it's cpb.ca. But anyways, there's a huge community in there. You can join as a bookkeeper at any level. So you can be a student, you can be like me where you're, top tier. And you can pay professional fees each year and you can attend many courses that they have and so on. And so I'd recommend anybody looking to get into bookkeeping, check out CPB.
Okay. And with you being specialized in real estate, would you say that that's the way to go, to specialize in a niche, let's say business demographic or in the business genre, or would you say be more broad? What's your advice on that?
I think that most bookkeepers like to work with anybody and everybody that they can at first, and oftentimes that doesn't work in their favor because they get people that argue with them about their bill and about the amount of hours they charge, etc. I would say niche, but don't niche as in like an industry. Niche is in like, what are the qualities and characteristics of a person you want to work with? For example, I love working with real estate investors, but my largest real estate investor client was a jerk, and it was just data entry to him. And I don't appreciate that kind of stuff. And so I ended up letting him go. It was thousands of dollars that went out of my account every month, but I felt like it was important because he didn't value the work. And so I would say make sure that you align yourselves with others that have the qualities and characteristics that you want to work with, because I think there's a lot of people out there, and you can't work with everybody. And so the more focused you can be on who you want to work with, I think naturally those clients kind of find you.
Okay. And if someone is, looking to get into bookkeeping and all kind of stuff, and you've been doing it for a long time, what can they kind of expect with the amount of time that you put into bookkeeping and running your business in terms of like revenue? What do you kind of generate annually?
Yeah. So when I started my business, my goal was $2,000 a month, and now we actually hit $250,000 a year. So it just shows that with being intentional and with setting goals, that you really can just get out of your own way and be successful. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's
really
amazing.
cool.
And typically, like, you have a team
Yeah.
that you work with. What's typically like the salary or hourly wage that you would pay someone that helps you?
So I actually have a junior bookkeeper that I've just hired on right now that is like minimum wage. I think I'm paying her $16 an hour because she has zero bookkeeping experience. And so I'm kind of training from the ground up. But my other staff member who's been with me for 2 years, she started off at $17 an hour, and she's at $23 an hour now. And so I would say that the position can really vary, but I would expect that a junior bookkeeper would be closer to minimum wage. The more experience you have, the closer to $25-$30 an hour you probably would expect as an employee.
That's like really, really good. I mean, like your overhead costs, like you work from home and you'll meet with clients and other businesses or whatever it may be
On Zoom.
on Zoom, all
Yep.
that kind of stuff. So your overhead is like not too much. And
My business is really heavy in software costs. So I pay for all my clients' QuickBooks subscriptions. I also pay for their receipt capture software called Dext. We have a lot of other softwares that we use. So I'm very, very, like, my tech stack is huge, like when it comes to programming.
sure.
So yeah.
What's like your average spend on that software stuff?
So I spend between $3,000 to $5,000 a month minimum on software costs. But again, I'm also billing out at $250,000 a year, and so take that with a grain of salt if you're somebody new, right? So an average QuickBooks account as a pro advisor is going to run you between $40 and $60 a month, depending on which kind of account you put them on. So keep that in mind. Some people have their clients pay the software. I just like paying for the software because it's one less recurring charge on their credit card a month. So I absorb the cost, and I get a bit of a discount too, being a pro advisor. So I try to pass that on to them. But it's to start again, maybe a couple $100 a month. Like, it really just depends. If all you're doing is pro advisor and you're no accounts, it's not costing you anything.
Sure. And what's kind of the goal for you with the bookkeeping business? Like, do you want to grow it? Do you want to have a bunch of staff and all that kind of stuff? Or are you, and like a lot of small businesses, we're like, headaches. And like, as you grow, there's more headaches and more issues and more money that you're putting out and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like, making more money is better, but it also comes with a lot of headaches. So where are you kind of going, Jen?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. So I am currently creating a new coaching program for real estate agents. I'm working with one of your former guests, Michael Dominichetti. He's been one of my clients for quite a few years. So him and I are creating this coaching program that really is, in our hopes, really going to change the real estate industry. We're heavily focused on finance, which is something I think that the real estate industry lacks in a lot of their coaching. And so we're really, really pumped to be able to tell you that we're doing a new project called the Profitable Agent. So we're focusing on masterminding right now with real estate agents across Canada. We've actually had people come from Quebec and BC already, and so it's very exciting knowing that we're getting the reach already. But we're really just trying to focus on helping one agent at a time. So whatever their issue is, whether it's lead generation, time management, finances, we just want to help them like take the phone out of their hand so that they can focus on what matters most. So whether that's more time with their family, more time to get more deals, maybe they're also a real estate investor. I work with so many real estate agents that are also investors. So being able to focus on, again, what matters most to them.
Wow. And that's really taking the 90% fail rate and trying to reduce that as much as possible.
Absolutely. And again, bringing in the profit first methodology system and just focusing in on being intentional with their money. So profit first really focuses on your bank, using your bank balance. So I can open up my phone right now, open up my TD banking app, and know if I can afford to go on a trip to Jamaica, or, if I can afford to go buy a house today, because all of my money is split up intentionally. And I don't take from one to pay for another. So I don't take from my CRA account when I have to pay my taxes in order to pay my credit card bill. Like I have specific accounts for specific reasons. And that solely I promise you, is going to make the biggest difference in the real estate industry. It's going to be amazing.
That's a big thing. I don't think any of us really have a good understanding coming out of high school, or even you really don't learn that in college either.
No.
About how to properly manage your money. And this is one thing we talked about with
Liz.
Liz, yeah. That people just don't have the expertise. And especially if you came from like a household or parents who, they're not good with money. They're not going to teach their kids how to be good with money, or they'll tell you to save, but not really like the right way to saving.
Yes.
Right. So I think even just beyond real estate, obviously I know that's an important niche, but of course everyone that's listening or wants to get involved, be more educated, talk to somebody like Jen, be more educational with your money and your spending. Even me too. We should probably talk.
We have a lunch plan, don't we?
Yeah, that's great though. And how would you say that would is it going to be all virtual? Is it going to be in person? Some courses or some seminars?
I think that, so we are going out to the brokerages right now. We are doing a lot of in-person presentations just to help build that know, like, and trust. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not willing to invest money in somebody that I've never really met before. And I'm not one of these sleazy sales by night people. I really just want to educate and just want to help as much as I can. And so a lot of it will be in person, but the majority of it will absolutely be virtual. And so I think that it'll be really interesting, because I think eventually we'll be going across Canada to do some of these presentations.
Cool.
But I think being able to have something like Zoom is amazing, because we're able to connect with agents from other provinces already, and eventually we want to go North America wide as well. So I think it's really exciting just to bring communities together. I've seen what an impactful change it's already made in the communities I'm a part of now, and so I just really want to bring that to the real estate community.
Okay. And is it going to be online training, preset videos that you're going to have, or is it more of you hop on a Zoom and get to spend an hour with Jen and just kind of go over everything? Or?
Yeah, so it's going to be a combination, actually. So we will have some pre-recorded lessons in our should you sign up for coaching calls. They are 3-month, 6-month commitments, so it's not like you just sign up for a week or things like that. Because change takes time and building habits takes time, and so we do ask that people have that commitment there. So. Sorry, Cal, what was your...
Yeah, sorry, just the delivery of the training. Is it going to be the online training?
Okay, sorry, yeah. So a lot of it will be pre-recorded videos, but a lot of it is going to be live in Zoom as well. So every week we'll be doing a one-on-one Zoom call with everybody, depending on the tier that you sign up for. There's also private one-to-one calls as well. So if you're someone that maybe doesn't like sharing in a group, you also can pay for the privilege of having a more privatized experience. But not necessarily everybody likes that. And I've seen the power of community and what, getting 10, 20, 30 people in a room does to each other. And it just raises the bar for everybody. And so it's going to be myself, Michael Dominichetti on the call every week. And we're going to focus on different areas. So again, we're going to focus on vision statement, mission statement, looking at your ideal clients, because I think, again, like realtors think, hey, I can just go door knocking and anybody was my client. Well, no, not everybody should be your client. And so focusing on what matters in lead generation. And the most important thing is finances. How do we stop you from spending all that wonderful commission money because you've got another 3 to 6 months before your next commission check comes in. And so we want to help avoid you taking an advance or having to get another job.
And what a great team too. I mean, with you having your expertise in bookkeeping and accounting skills and all that kind of stuff from the financing side, and then also having Michael, who's had multiple years in the real estate agents and has been part of the recessions and, had amazing years and I'm sure not so great years. I just couldn't think of a better team to do that and to, go across Canada and bring that to, I'm sure a lot of real estate agents that need that, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I would agree with you. Michael has been an agent at Keller Williams for, I believe, 10 years. The one thing I love about him is he has so much knowledge behind him. He's done a lot of coaching himself as well. And so you really can tell he and I both come from a place of serving, because we're not just trying to give you like the get rich quick answers. It's like, hey, this takes time. Mm-hmm. And that's okay that it takes time. Anybody that genuinely is wealthy understands that you don't make your money overnight,
Mm-hmm. Can't go to the gym one time and expect to lose 20 pounds,
Exactly.
Like, it takes time and it takes commitment and discipline and all that kind of stuff. And 3 to 6 months of, I'm sure, being on your program is just they're going to be like, oh my God, I have so much time to do all these other things, get more clients, go to more open houses, like whatever it may be, right? Or
whatever the goals are for them, even if it's just being able to go to their kids' soccer games or something, like it's amazing how many people we talk to that just continuously miss family events because they've got to go, write up a deal, or they have to do this, or so. Yeah, it's super awesome.
Can't put a price on time, right?
Yeah,
it's like the biggest commodity that we have. Like we
Absolutely.
have to use it as best we can every day and all that kind of stuff. And so when people come to you, Jen, it's live now or it's going to be live?
Yeah. So actually we have our next monthly call for the profitable agent is tomorrow. So if I'm assuming this is not going out before tomorrow, but that's okay. But the last Tuesday of every month from 10 to 11:30 in the morning, we do an hour and a half mastermind call over Zoom. You can sign up for it right at the profitableagent.ca. And we'll have more information coming out over the coming months for our coaching program and really what it looks like to work with us as well.
Wow. And this is, you're going to be how many so far?
This is our third month doing it so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just started a couple months ago. Yeah. So it's super exciting.
Yeah. And then pricing wise, roughly what can people kind of expect, or is it kind of custom based on the client's needs and all that kind of stuff?
That we would like to have conversations with. So it's there is pricing points, but we are still new in the coaching game. And so we are still working on that at this moment. So maybe if we don't include that question,
That's good to know. But like, even for future, like there will be pricing to come, but it's all learning, right? It's
Yes.
learning how much, makes sense for that consumer to pay for that service, right? Or a team, right? And if you're, let's say a brokerage comes to you and they have 10 to 20 people, right? It's different than just having one person.
Absolutely.
Right?
So if you're a brokerage with 10 to 20 people, we would actually do some custom lessons for you. The reason for that is an agent that has that many people on their team has a lot different requirements than your average agent. Those are more mega agents. And so those are totally customized packages separately as well. This is more your solo agent, regardless if you're brand new or you've been in the industry for 10, 20 years, doesn't matter. We all can learn something new and we're all stronger together as a community. So again, I can promise you that the first round of coaching that we're going to be rolling out in the next couple months will be the cheapest it's ever going to be. Like you said, it's just going to get more and more expensive every time. And
as you get bigger and as your team grows from a coaching level, and as you dive into more tech software that also helps these individuals, right, that they can also get into, like, whoever does listen to this or, being a part of it, like, if you are a real estate agent that wants to, sharpen up on your skills, be better with finances, just all around the best real estate agent you can be. So then that way, 5 years from now, it's going to be a lot easier. Go
Yeah.
see Jen.
Yeah.
Hey, what's it called?
It's called The Profitable Agent.
Profitable agent. Okay.
Yeah.
Even probably just even to chat, just like at least touch base with you, which would probably be really cool, even if you're not at a level where you need coaching, but even just to be like, okay, this is my goals I need to hit to be able to work with Jen and the Profitable Agent. So
Yeah.
it's definitely, I mean, coaching is like one of the most underrated things that's out there. And I'm sure I need some more coaching. So.
Well, I'm always here.
Yeah.
And I would totally agree with you. Since investing that original $20,000 in coaching, I've invested another $50,000 over the last couple of years in more coaches and more programs, because we're definitely our own worst enemies when it comes to business and in life. Like, we are our own bottlenecks in business. And so to be able to have somebody who has my back, who's like, oh, you're not doing yourself any favors, is so very important. And that's really what we want to do, is just have those very important conversations, one person at a time. And just, again, even if they don't sign up for the coaching program, I'm the kind of person that's going to just be crazy and just give you some pieces of advice anyways, because I genuinely, like, unless you're like a prick, like, yeah, I genuinely want to see you like do well. Like, really, I do. Like, I think that all too often, entrepreneurs don't ask the questions. And so I think it's important to just give those pieces of advice.
We might seem stupid, right? Like, if you ask that question, like, oh man, I should know the answer to this. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time or whatever it may be, but like, it might be a stupid question, and that's okay. Like, you just have to ask the questions.
The stupidest question is the one you don't ask.
Yeah.
That in my world, that's the thing that we say. Yeah.
Sure.
Wow. I wish we could keep talking, Jen, but one thing we love to do at ending every podcast, if you could give yourself 20-year-old advice, what would it be?
Oh, invest in Facebook.
Yeah. I didn't send Jen the email.
I know.
I think that if I could rewind time and give my 20-year-old advice, I would say you're capable of more than what you realize, and so just start now. Just read the books and don't be afraid of the no's. And don't be afraid of the conversations. I think that, I turn 40 next month, and I think I feel more free now at 40 than I did at 20 to just be stupid and crazy and wild and like whatever, because I just don't care anymore. So,
Right.
But at 20, I would have cared. I would have been very like, oh my gosh, and like, people are going to see this and judge it. It does not matter. People care more about themselves than they care about you. And so be you, be genuinely you. And just, again, don't be afraid. Just go for it. I think that's the one regret that we all have later in life, is that we didn't do it sooner.
I'm getting goosebumps right now.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And it's so sad. I think people live their entire lives not doing things that they actually want to do.
Yeah.
And it's just, just seeing you here today and just being like, you're going after it. You're doing the Profitable Agent. There's so many awesome things, in the pipeline there. And it's just so cool to see. Incredible.
Thanks.
Wow. Now, what goals do you have for the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So with the Profitable Agent, we definitely want this to be a multi-million-dollar venture. We want to roll this out North America wide. I want Gary Keller I am going to have Gary Keller from Keller Williams have the write the foreword for our book. And hopefully it's going to be the start of many books and the start of many paid engagements over the course of the years. This is really where my life is going, is not that I'm leaving bookkeeping behind, because I genuinely feel that people will always need a good bookkeeper, but my focus is genuinely with this coaching program and making sure that we're helping change as many lives as we can.
Wow. Now, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, talk to you one-on-one, or get involved, how can they do so?
Thank you for asking. So we have a few different websites that you can definitely get a hold of us at. So we have profitswithaz.ca. We have the profitableagent.ca. We also have cbtsinc.ca. I'll have to give you all these links afterwards.
They'll be in the comments below.
Yes.
But I don't give out, I'll give you guys my office line, but I don't give out my personal phone number anymore. Like, I'm not into answering evening calls, but The fastest way for you to get a hold of me is actually email. So if you go onto one of our websites, there are contact us forms. You can fill them out, and usually within a day or two, we're responding back to you. Or again, you can call our office, which is 905-551-9535. And if you press extension number 1, that gets me.
Wow, great. Awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Cal?
No, I think pretty much covered everything. You know what? Actually, with the economical, like we just went through the craziest boom in real estate, and now things are changing. Interest rates are up. Just on the back end of everything, and all the real estate agents that are out there, this like huge boom to going to where we are now. Like, I guess any advice for real estate agents and like what they can kind of do to prepare for maybe a bit of a burst, if you will, or something like that.
Save your money.
Save your
Get
money.
intentional. No, I think that it's while there are certain kinds of people that are staying put and not buying homes, there are other people looking for opportunities like myself as an investor. And so aligning yourself with the right individuals is so very important. So making sure that your leads are always warm. So having regular contact with people is so important. Having a look at the statistics in your area. So what is actually selling? Because some stuff is sitting, but it's probably sitting because it's really high priced. If you're priced right now, things are still selling within 30 days. So I think as somebody who's paying variable rates on more than one property, I've felt the pinch myself. And so I'm sure there's going to be a correction. And I've heard from agents that they're noticing things are slowing down already. So preparing for the storm is so important. So looking at what you're spending a month on your credit card and on your debit card are so very important. So like, could you cut some of your subscription costs? Can you get rid of your lease if you have to? These are all things that you don't want to have to, do because you want to look like the professional agent. But I can promise you I've worked with a lot of people that earn 7 figures that are in the red, and they're one bad commission check away from closing their doors. So don't always look at that flashy dashy stuff and think that you need that. Have some money in a separate savings account. Start with 1%.
Wow. Perfect. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Jen. We really appreciate you being part of today's podcast and all the insight that you've given, obviously not only bookkeepers, but real estate agents out there. And to everyone who's listening, I really hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below what you think, and any future careers that you'd like to see on ongoing podcasts. We really appreciate it. And be sure to reach out to my sister, Jen, if you need any coaching advice for being a real estate agent. Thank you so much, guys. Catch you in the next one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh,
Wow.
I didn't like some of them.
wow,
good
Jen.
stuff.
You're great. Oh my goodness.
Oh, see, and I felt like I didn't answer.